church.
Morning,
My name is Zack. I get the honor of speaking to you about communion today. I'm going to be reading out of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, if people want to turn there, but I'm going to talk a little bit first. I think my wife and I's anniversary was May 1st, for our 5-year anniversary.
Nice.
The topic of love has been on the brain, I think, the last couple of weeks. Just being able to go out for dinner and have a date night and talk about all the things that have happened over the last 5 years that have been crazy, but have strengthened and deepened our relationship with one another. I think it being Mother's Day, often a first example of being able to feel love or receive love in this world is from our mothers. And so I felt like being able to tie Jesus and Jesus' love in with all those things that I've been feeling was kind of the route I wanted to go this morning. Let's flip to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is commonly read at weddings. So that was another reason it was on my mind. But I think there is a lot of power within this verse. I'm just going to read kind of the whole chapter. It says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." I was talking about examples of love we can receive in this life. I think this came this morning. I tweaked my ankle a little bit on Friday. I was a little bit more sore yesterday, and then a little bit more this morning. And my wife kind of had been using it for some of her health stuff previously, and she just came over and was like, I see you're in pain. Please take this. It will be helpful to you. And I felt that love, from her. But it kind of talks about how right now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. I think, my wife was reflecting, her love for me and God's love for me, through that action. But kind of the ultimate, though I love my wife, though I love, my mom, I love my friends, I think you look at these passages, my wife is very patient, she is very kind. But, maybe if she hasn't eaten, that might lessen a little bit. Or, if she's in pain, I was in pain this morning, I might feel my kindness, harder to come by. But when you look at, the examples of Jesus throughout his life that you could find in the gospel, that love was always the same and it was always consistent. It wasn't necessarily shown in the same way, but he knew kind of what each person needed to hear or needed to have done to help them feel and be moved by that. You can see him, with the woman that was caught in adultery, the woman at the well, there's a mercy and a love where maybe others would bring shame or other emotions. You can see, when he's resurrecting, his friend Lazarus, and you can see the love that he has for him. He's, healing, Peter's mother, or, the various lepers and people that he's healed, that compassion, that love, and that patience. In calling of Zacchaeus from under the tree, and it's somebody who, was a tax collector and looked down on, but Jesus didn't hold that against him, and he says, we're having dinner at your house tonight, and he gave him that belief and that love, where he was able to kind of turn his life around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ultimate example of love from Jesus being on the cross, that being, even when he was, being beaten, in pain, being tortured, he looked after his mother and calls on, his disciple to help make sure that she's taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
He's loving, the thief on the cross who's next to him and crying out to him. And then, ultimately here, it talks about love keeping no records of wrongs. And I think that's only possible because of the cross. The blood and the body that was broken and shed there covers over, our wrongs and wipes our slate clean before God and before one another. And that's ultimately the greatest example of love that can be shown in the history of mankind. That's what brings each one of us to this room this morning. And that's why, communion and the cross is kind of the most important part of any church service. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, thank you for your love for us, God. Thank you for knowing that there was a fracture in the relationship between us and you, God, that you were willing to, that Jesus was willing to take on a human form to come down, to set an example for us in how to live and how to love, and to ultimately go through what he went through, God, as a ransom for us, God, to wipe our slate clean, to help bring us into your family, into your kingdom, to be able to come before your throne in prayer like this, God, one-on-one with one another. And I just thank you for everything that you do for us every day that we might not even realize, God. And I just thank you for your love, for the way that it's changed my life. In Jesus' name.